we're gonna talk about Dune now. This kind of looks like a weapon.
Spoilers for Dune. This would be a good weapon in Dune because the mechanics of
spoilers for Dune. Dune was fucking awesome.
Dune was based.
And I've never read the books, and it also
I know the books from association, but I've never read them. Neither of us are a fan of Dune.
No, never read the books. None of us are familiar with the franchise. It was a 2.5-hour long movie that is fully the first part of a story. These are all things.
Yeah.
This is geared for me to dislike.
Yeah. If after all of that Coleman still said it was good,
then it was really good.
Because that is literally the kryptonite for Coleman.
Yeah. That's the minus column. But it's not even a.
It's not even a minus. It's like
it's just things.
It's not a positive or a negative. It's just a fact of the matter.
If you're somebody who can't handle watching an unfinished story, wait till the second Dune comes out
and then watch them together.
Because it is very much.
This is very much.
You can pinpoint the point in the movie where where the first act of the Dune Book 1 story ends.
Yes.
And it's like.
This is very much. It's a lot like in Lord of the Rings, where in the first movie it ends on a satisfying note, but that was clearly not where the story was meant to.
The ending feels very Lord of the Rings, with a group of characters wandering off to a next undisclosed location.
Yes.
Here's where we're gonna be doing more.
If we're comparing it to Lord of the Rings, it's because it's based.
Okay, but here's the thing. No, Dune feels like. So if Star Wars has become the pew pew nonsense action space sci-fi franchise,
sci-fi. It's science fantasy.
Dune is the more thoughtful
it's the
world
opposite
building.
Yeah, it's science fantasy from the perspective of a fantasy fan. Star Wars is science fantasy from the perspective of a sci-fi fan who wants dumb shooty go blam action.
I guess I don't even know if that's true. I'm much more of a sci-fi guy than a fantasy guy, and I feel like that's why I like Dune better than Lord of the Rings.
We're not really comparing Dune.
I'm not even comparing.
Such different franchises.
No, the only reason I'm comparing is that Lord of the Rings is the perfect example of long movies that I haven't watched all the way through properly. Because I'm bad at.
Yeah. Bros Coleman in the comment section so that I can bully him into doing an episode, not an episode, just a night where we watch the Lord of the Rings.
Anyway, we're talking about Dune.
Dune is fucking great.
Do you want
to start? Let's just start with the casting. Timothy Chalamet.
I was going to start with my plus column.
Okay.
So if the minus column are all the things that normally, because I'm kind of trying to, I want to give the opinion of this. I want to give my opinion of this.
This is the first time we're actually doing a proper, here's the pros, here's the cons,
here's a review. And I want to give my opinion of this in a way that, because Dune fans probably have already seen it, probably liked it.
Dune fans liked this movie before it even came out because they were so starved
I want to convince people who, like me, would look at these minuses of 2.5 hours. Story doesn't finish.
We're trying to get
these very atmospheric sci-fi. And
we're trying to get the two circles of Fear podcast fans and Dune fans to overlap.
Oh my god. The pros and cons.
Pros and cons.
This has lemonade in it. It's not all alcohol.
It's not all alcohol, but it is a lot of alcohol.
The pros and cons are. So the pros, I already listed my the things that would normally make me not interested. Pros for me are sci-fi, but
sci-fi, but from a less
very thoughtful atmosphere,
less philosophical, more world building and lore.
World building, lore, atmosphere.
Yes.
And another pro, it has a protagonist who sees visions of the future, which for me is something. This is the Monado's power! The plot feels very Xenoblade-ish, for more reasons than just the protagonist can see visions of the future.
The white man comparing movies to other movies moment.
Movie to video game! But
I love when our friends were roasting us for that in our Discord.
Cis white guy likes Dune. I'm like, okay guys.
Says the cis white man to the cis white man, who also likes cis white man movies.
Yeah. It's the Uncut Gems effect. Us talking about Dune. Okay, what am I even doing?
Dune, positive sci-fi setting.
Yeah, another positive. Visions of the future. I've discovered I just really like those kinds of stories where the foreshadowing is really blatant.
Especially, but when the source of the foreshadowing is vague.
Yes, that's the.
It's not like even in this first movie, it is very unclear spoilers. I feel like this is the only segment we're gonna have to legitimately put a spoiler tag or whatever. Because fucking Paul Atreides is getting visions of the future where he has become the savior of the Fremen people and is leading a rebellion.
Well, there's a question of, here's a way we can talk about sort of spoiler free. Although I will dive into spoilers in a minute.
So might as well just put the spoiler tag for the whole segment.
It's the kind of movie where the main character is a chosen one, and they don't even try to hide. Everybody knows. From
jump, where they're literally talking about how Paul was born to be chosen.
But it's chosen by who? Is it a good thing? And for what? Is it a good thing that he's the chosen one? He doesn't want to be.
And a lot of the characters are in a well-written way, they're very dismissive about his not wanting to be the chosen one.
And a lot of the characters that push him the hardest into this chosen one role are the characters that have very seemingly dubious motives.
Yes, but his mom.
Like his mom, who's a part of a super cult.
Kind of. Cult of basic super nuns.
Who basically are just Jedi.
Yeah. It's basically what they were trying to do with the Jedi in the prequels, but failed at because George Lucas is not a great writer.
In a lot of ways, Dune is, from this first movie that I've seen and where I think the plot is going, in a lot of ways, Dune is what I wanted Star Wars to be, and it's what Star Wars got the closest to being with the Luke storyline in The Last Jedi.
And then the Star Wars fans
couldn't commit
got pissy.
Well, even within Last Jedi, I feel like they couldn't quite commit to it.
Well, because they wanted it to be a redemption sort of story, at least for Luke. But then, I feel like it would have been more interesting to just have it let him fail.
Yeah.
Last Jedi tangent. Last Jedi.
I
think it's fair because so much
of Star Wars is inspired by Dune.
Yeah.
One of the first scenes in this movie has Paul's mom telling him to use the voice, which is their power, and the second you hear that, you're like, okay, so that's the Force.
Yeah.
But
actually creepy.
Yeah, it's the creepiest.
I really love how they do it, where it's in their mind that you see them doing the action,
yeah.
And then if the voice succeeds or fails, they'll actually have done the action.
Yeah.
There will be a lapse in their memory between them performing the action and them regaining control.
It's less the fun what the Force was, and more fucked up suggestion in D&D. If it was portrayed as fucked up as it.
How to build Paul Atreides in D&D by Tulok the Barbarian.
Stop. Okay.
Anyway, but
another plus in the plus column for why I really like this. Denis Villeneuve is a masterclass director.
He's really good.
I made a Blade Runner 2049 review a while back, and.
Link here.
I guess I'll put it in. I mean,
link in the description.
I figured out how to use YouTube cards. I think, unless they changed it again. Fucking YouTube.
Who knows?
But I loved that movie too, and that was a movie nobody watched. So that's what the fear is like. Is Dune also gonna bomb?
Thankfully, people seem to be watching this movie.
Dune seems to be doing, and it also seems.
Which is funny because. We've talked about this, nothing is more confusing to us than the Dune fandom.
The Dune fandom, it encompasses such an age range. I said this to him as we were sitting down for the movie. Dune is the Weezer of sci-fi,
and
where it's just been around forever, and there's just these weird little sub-pockets of fans in every
And you can't tell how many of them are actual fans or just there for the irony.
Right, yeah. I feel like the Dune fandom's less ironic than the Weezer fandom, but I do think...
They don't have time to be ironic because they want the spice.
The circle, the Venn diagram of Dune
circle.
Weezer fans is like this. It's very...
Not all Weezer fans, not all Weezer fans are Dune fans, but all Dune fans are Weezer fans.
My friends from high school were the ones who've been hyping up Dune for a while. They're also Weezer fans. Shout outs to you guys if you're watching this. You've already seen the movie. Probably.
Comment in the comment section, Fungus Among Us, if you're one of Coleman's high school friends.
Shut. But Villeneuve
is a great director, and he's also given a great cast.
I described this in the group chat with my friends. why I like Villeneuve. He makes like artsy indie films,
but with the budget.
With the budget and specifically the scope of blockbusters.
Yes.
All of his worlds are these like huge scale.
Those are my favorite directors. The ones who never make money, but for some reason he found a way.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's
big scope, small budget, big feel. Never makes money except for Dune.
Yeah. Because
Dune is supremacy.
So he was kind of perfect to direct this. It's just this huge scale. By the way,
I thought this. I didn't think it was going to be a disaster, but I thought we were going to just be bored when we went into this. But like,
it has the potential to be boring.
But it's
all those
really
cons
good.
we listed, but it's thoroughly engaged. There's a lot of expositionary dialogue they have to use just to give you a base level of info about this world.
Because this is
That's what makes the book so hard to adapt. From what I've heard, is there's just a ton of world.
Because this isn't. Not only is this not like a. It's popular in sci-fi nerd spaces, but it's not popular necessarily in the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, a lot of its rule sets are really weird and complicated.
Yes, it's got a very complicated.
It's not a bad thing. It's just a fact.
And I feel like even with all the info they gave us in that movie, they gave us like the bare minimum to really understand things.
They gave us the dumb moviegoer explanation.
But okay, there's another thing that would normally be a con, but Villeneuve handles it so well. Most of the exposition. The vast majority of it
feels really natural and not bad.
When it's either worked well into the scenes, or if they really just go straight exposition mode, it's accompanied by some gorgeous visual or amazing sound cue.
Something to give you visuals in addition to
not just
an explanation.
Words.
We mentioned this because the fucking resort had it terrible. Oh my god.
And it's honestly some of the best stuff, and just in general the visual scope of the world. I love. Don't watch this on HBO Max.
No, unless you have a really good TV and speaker setup.
Because it's not just the scale of the visuals; it's also the sound is mixed for a theater.
Oh my god, this would be so unbearable to listen to.
There is almost constantly some kind of soundtrack playing.
Most of the characters speak in a very sort of hushed, calm,
I watched about 20 minutes of it on HBO Max before we went to see it in the movies, just because friends put it on. And I was like, okay, I can't get engaged with this like this.
Because it's like your friends are just vibing, and
one, because you really have to pay attention, and two, because it's hard to hear. I mean, we had the subtitles on, but it's just so much of it is that this it feels like what Inception or Tenet do with their booming soundtracks, but if it was actually mixed well instead of how
this has really good sound mix. Even during the quiet parts, it's not so quiet that you can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah, it's never so quiet you can't hear what they're saying.
Sometimes you struggle because of their accents, but it's never that bad.
Yeah. And there is I remember one scene in particular where they're unloading from the spaceship, and there's some very loud music. The music is here, the dialogue is here.
But you can hear both perfectly.
You can hear both perfectly.
Without
watching it on HBO Max would rob some of that.
Because the speakers wouldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Even my soundboard wouldn't handle it.
Unless you have a movie theater quality level sound system, it's going to be hard.
Kale's house might have
Kale's movie theater room.
Yeah.
You could watch.
Unless you're our friend Kale, don't watch this at home.
Yeah.
Sound mixing. Let's talk about the acting for a sec.
The only reason I can think to watch any of it on HBO Max is if you're not sure if you would like it. Watch the first 30 minutes or something at home. But even then, you might not get the best sample of it because
you're experiencing it. We sound like such film. You need to watch this in theaters.
But it's so made, and even the director.
You know it's a good movie if we're saying you need to go out and watch this in theaters.
Yes, it's just that's the best way to just get immersed into the world for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I forget who said it, but the way films used to be made is that they are something you are supposed to be sort of drowned in.
Yeah.
And that is what Dune is.
That's what it's...
It is a movie that you're supposed to drown in the scope of.
Yeah.
And you can't really do that on a home TV.
The scope and the sound... I really love Villeneuve. I'm like...
And like, we didn't mention it, and I kept bringing it up. The cast does a really good job.
The casting is really...
I know Timothée Chalamet isn't a bad actor, but we have...
There's a meme around
There's
it.
a meme. There's a lot of memes floating out
mostly
around it. He was good at this.
Mostly the meme around it is that the early 20s age market in Hollywood has just been cornered by Tom Holland and Timothée Chalamet, and it's annoying as an actor, as an aspiring actor especially.
But like then you watch movies like these, and you're like, oh, so that's why they keep hiring.
Dune. It also fits Timothée Chalamet well, and you mentioned the casting. I think that's part of what's brought the movie to success because they cast a lot of really hot names right now.
Yeah, Oscar Isaacs, Dave Bautista,
Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
They cast a lot of really hot names right now that will convince people who have never heard of Dune or read Dune to go to the theaters to see it.
And then
Chalamet fans who have never read Dune are going to go to the movies to see it.
And then like all of them are cast perfectly.
Timothée Chalamet has just the right amount of broodingness and just the right amount of brooding menace and like there's something vaguely uncomfortable about him.
He looks like the type of person that he could either be a hero or he could fucking kill you, like, and then have a blank face.
Yeah.
And you would not even know.
And that's crucial to this character who is sometimes earlier, that chosen one, but chosen by who kind of thing. Like,
yeah, it feels like to borrow a phrase from season 8 of Game of Thrones, I know.
Okay.
But like he feels like he's got his coin in the air and like it could land either way.
Oh, yeah.
And he captures that perfectly.
Yes. Oscar Isaac as his dad is great.
Yeah.
The actress who plays his mom is...
I can't think of the name, but she's also great.
Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista, while not given a lot to do in this movie, like he's fucking chewing the scenery and it's great.
Him and Stellan Skarsgård as the Bear, who is fully just like an SCP version of my D&D character. He's
the Dune Baron.
He's the Dune Baron. This money-grubbing like asshole. At one point he says like, "All I live for is income." Or something like that. He talks like this.
There's so many great lines from him. Unfortunately, we didn't write any of them down, so we can't remember them off the top of our head.
But he's also this like weird. Is he like a snake thing?
I think
he just floats around. He's got some weird powers.
He
survived that poison attack.
Yeah. I think he's got stuff like,
he's an interesting character.
Possible book spoilers. I think the spice does more than just give you weird hallucinations.
Oh, yeah, the spice.
I think it also gives you strange powers.
Oh, we haven't talked about the basic premise. There's a desert planet full of these spice drugs.
Which is both a hallucinogen and the fuel used to power
interstellar space travel.
So it is and it's like, from what I can tell, it's one of the only planets that this is a natural resource on. Mm-hmm. So it is incredibly
conflict between the natives of the planet, the Freemen, and the outsider emperor and the outside houses under the Empire. Dave Bautista and the Baron are members of the Harkonnen.
Yeah, who initially owned the planet.
Yeah, it's very warmonger tribe, and then the Emperor took the planet away from them and gave it to House Atreides.
Who's much more like diplomatic.
Yes, they're trying to make deals with the Freemen, but it's this sort of thing of like Christopher Columbus colonizer versus Plymouth Rock colonizer.
The Freemen know they're in for a bad deal either way, but one group is trying to genocide them, the other group is trying to negotiate with them. And it's like they're gonna talk to the negotiators, but they're probably not gonna like them.
Yeah.
And the movie actually kind of addresses that.
They do some interesting stuff like that, like when the Freeman visits and he spits on the table and it's his cultural custom, and the military guy is about to attack him, and then Duncan Idaho, played by Jason Momoa, has to be like, calm down, it's part of their culture.
We thank you for this sign of respect.
It's actually trying to say something about chosen one narratives and white savior narratives rather than just Rey Skywalker. Oh! Watching
Rey Skywalker
watching
moment.
Dune has made me complete my arc from Star Wars fan to Star Wars hater.
Were you ever a Star Wars fan?
I was like kind of when I was a kid,
Oh,
but like
yeah,
watching the
well,
sequels.
because they had a lot of good kid content.
Because now I watch Dune and I'm like, okay, wait, Dune has the awesome visuals and like scope that Star Wars can have,
But without
the
being
shitty storytelling.
and without being meaningless.
Yeah.
It has an actual thing to
I
say.
love their round spaceships that all the little round spaceships come out
Well,
of.
because like, why would you not have like just a big spaceship that
I
can
love
control-
so much of the tech of the helicopters that have flippy flappy things like mosquitoes.
Yeah,
The
it's got
bug-copters.
the
I call them.
bug-copters,
The
yeah.
worm. I love
The
that.
fucking
I loved
worm,
it the
oh my
first
God.
couple times.
I was expecting to find the worm funny, but no, it is genuinely
It's just
terrifying.
threatening because Villeneuve sells the scale of it.
It's it's like a fucking like blue whale sized worm that fucking reacts to sound in the desert.
I like that the first couple times the worm shows up, you don't even really get to see the worm.
No.
You just see the sand crashing and rising as it pops out of the...
Perfect horror movie lesson there.
Yeah.
Don't show the monster until you need to.
And then by the time they
build
do
more
show the worm,
suspense.
it's like important.
Yeah. Mwah. The worm's great. Like everything's great.
Everything is great.
We're running out of
awesome.
things. Everything is awesome.
Oh, I have a ton of like smaller details I could talk about. I'm just not remembering them all off the top of my head. Fear is the mind killer. Fear title. No, the more I was watching, the more I was like, I need to. I guess.
Well, because like even though this is like a maybe not a spoiler safe thing, we don't want to fucking spoil the whole plot.
I think now would be where now is where I'm going to spoiler timestamp because I can't think of anything else that I can talk about without spoiler.
Well, because we've basically gone over the
premise,
the basic premise,
the visual design and all like audio stuff that makes it
everything that you could get from like a single watch of the trailer.
Yeah. Although the trailers focus way too much on Zendaya,
who's not really like
she's not in that much of the movie.
Yeah. So if you're here for Zendaya, you're not going to be getting too much.
In the
Zendaya.
next movie, you'll get some Zendaya.
Yeah.
Spoilers. We'll get into it now. He's having these dreams of Zendaya's character, like future visions, and he doesn't actually meet her physically until like 15 minutes before the end.
Yeah.
Because it ends in the middle of the story.
Yeah. Literally the middle of the story, the middle of the desert.
Yeah, the middle of the desert. The scene where I was hooked. Let's talk. We're gonna talk about that.
Oh
now.
yeah.
I was into it in the beginning. You know, the atmosphere, the setting, the world building.
All great, but it's like you expect
put your
that
hand
from
in
David.
the box.
The box scene is great.
The box.
That's probably the most iconic scene from Dune because like fucking,
it was in the trailers and they made it seem less cool. Honestly, the trailers made it seem less.
The trailers did not sell this.
It's a hard movie to market. I don't know how it.
Now they're just gonna market it as like the sequel to Dune.
Yeah, well, that's how they're gonna market Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
But the
conclusion to the epic story.
The scene where I was like, okay, I'm now into this. I'm now into this. No matter where, like, if this goes the way I'm going, could be like top tier media for me. Is middle of the movie, the Harkonnens have brutally invaded the Atreides camp on the planet.
They got a traitor to fucking lower the shields.
I like that the traitor tries to help Paul's father.
Well, because he's like, I'm not doing this because I hate House Atreides. I'm doing this because they have my wife.
He gives him like this poison tooth.
But I still hate the Baron, so I'm going to try to do everything I can to help you get.
And that's the poison attack. Is he breathes out poison, which will kill him, but will also kill the Baron. Except it doesn't kill the Baron
because the Baron has.
I like that they don't even show the guys show up to clean up the poison mess, and then they realize the Baron's still alive.
Yeah, he's like a fucking horror
He
villain.
is like
clinging to the goddamn ceiling.
But I like they see he's still alive. None of this is the scene that hooked me. It's just good scenes. And then the next scene is like him just with his goons, and you don't know what happened to those guys, but you just know they got all murdered.
All murdered. They can't.
Because there's this thing where the Empire is kind of orchestrating all of these events.
Well, like the Empire is specific. Like the Baron specifically said, they're not. Don't assume that the Emperor giving House Atreides Arrakis, which was the planet, is a gift.
They wanted to wipe out House Atreides, essentially.
Yeah, they're like this
because later in the movie, after the invasion, Empire soldiers start showing up. And like Duncan Idaho has to fight them. Duncan Idaho's a cool character with a very silly name.
Yeah.
I really didn't expect him to. Spoilers. Reminder: we're in spoilers at this point. I really didn't expect him to die. They just started killing people off left and right in the last half of the movie, which is.
I did. That's one of the things that I got spoiled on. Not spoiled on, but like I knew from cultural osmosis is that Duncan Idaho died. But he still had a great. He still went out like a boss. It was great.
He went out like a boss. But the scene that really sold me. So.
He's in the tent with his mom.
He's in the tent. He has these
at their lowest point.
Yeah, he's in the tent. So they're both running away from the Harkonnens. And Paul has a vision of, like, these battlefields with dead bodies everywhere, like this spaceship with, like, evil Dark Hood over. It was very Star Wars Empire.
Yeah.
But then you zoom in, but then at one point we see it, and the people in the dark robe, the people commanding this war, are Paul and Zendaya's character.
And I think maybe
his mom, too. It's like they are the Empire.
And it's like, oh, shit.
And it's also this Crusades analogy, because, like, if he's the Jesus, then
these are his.
He literally
Crusaders.
talks about. I don't know if he says crusade exactly, but he's like, they're starting a war in my name, and like he talks about.
And then he like has visions of like Zendaya covered in blood, holding a knife.
Yeah. It's very. The visions are very dramatic and like.
And it's not clear if like that's his blood, if that's someone else's blood.
And it's not clear what of this is analogy and what of this is direct feature.
Yeah.
But and then what I really love is he's freaking out about this. He's like, I don't want this.
Comfort him.
And his mom, who maybe remind you, is a part of the super cult that basically birthed him to try to. They've been trying to create the
chosen
one.
Yeah.
And she comes up and he's like, she's like, basically like, it's okay, this is your birthright.
And it's like, I never asked for this.
It's not,
okay, that makes it sound bad.
No, he pulls out the voice, which is like their mind control voice power.
And he's like,
and he yells, get away from me, or something like that. And, well, that was cool, because like, I'm watching him get consoled by her, and I figure he's going to get mad at her. Not only do they have this voice filter amplifying the volume to startle you, but also in the performance, I think that's the loudest he gets in the movie.
That is him at his
they didn't have him. They had him act it as if there was no vocal filter.
Yeah.
And then added the voice filter to the point where it literally made me jump back in my seat in shock. And that's when I was like, okay,
this is good.
Okay, I'm in.
Okay,
I'm in on where this future, like I'm all in on this. Like that's like movie scene of the year for me.
That's a great scene. Yeah, because like he's like, you know, I never asked to be a chosen one. Yeah, and like that sounds cringy, but it's not, because like it's literally like, you know,
it's not because it's more than.
He's not being like, boo-hoo, I'm a baby.
Yeah,
he's like, I didn't ask to have all of this importance. Yeah, I just wanted to be my father's son.
It's less I'm a whiny boy who doesn't want to fulfill the prophecy, and more I'm scared of what fulfilling this prophecy means.
I'm scared of what I will do. Yeah. I'm scared of what I'm being asked to do and what I'm capable of doing.
Yeah, which is very, very
possible genocide.
Yeah, possible. We'll see. I don't know where they go. Who knows? My friends were telling me one of the books mentions Hitler at some point. So
that's fucking wild.
Yeah.
I know a worm shows up at some point.
Because does this take place in a far future after Earth?
Possibly.
It's unclear who's human and whether there are other races.
I think they go into that more in other books.
Yeah, I feel like they just didn't dive into that.
Well, because they specify that the Fremen are different than the humans. Yeah. But it's not clear if it's like, well, the people from Atreides and stuff are just like normal humans, and the Fremen are like spice.
And are the Harkonnens humans? Like
especially the Harkonnens, because like
they seem very inhuman.
Some of them look like fucking mutants.
Yeah, the Baron.
The Baron,
fucking emerging
like,
from a vat with
his fucking head guard with like I know it's Dave Bautista, but he still like has this bald head,
right?
Like,
yeah,
no eyebrows, and he fucking looks.
I also love the like assistant that he has that is played by that one guy who always plays the villain's assistant.
Yeah,
never the villain, but always the villain's assistant.
Never the bridesmaid, always the evil.
Always the like scheming, like side-eyeing assistant to the villain.
Someone who will never actually betray the villain, but will always think about it.
Yeah. Somebody who will come up to the side goon who's considering betraying the villain and like be like, I really advise you not do that, but if you do it, make sure I don't get involved in it.
Make sure you don't mention my name.
Yeah. There's really nothing. The only possible criticism I could think of about this movie is that the character Janice, that's introduced semi-late into the movie, he dies at the end, and he really doesn't get like. And maybe it's like this in the books too, but I didn't really
like the
explains his motivations to fight Paul at the end, but I don't really understand why he felt so strongly about.
Well, because they get confronted after they wander.
This is when they finally find the Freemans who Zendaya is one of.
Well, because they met the Freemans before, and like they tried to discuss peace, kind of fell through. Then they meet again in the desert, and like the Fremen essentially are about to kill them.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you're just going to lead the Harkonnens to us and cause more damage.
I just remembered one thing we didn't talk about earlier Okay. Unspoilers your timestamp.
Unspoiler, you know what? Fuck you. Unspoilers your timestamp.
The shields. I love the shields. I literally don't think they could have represented that better. So combat is
technology has advanced to such a point that like projectiles are useless.
Unless you have very specific kind, like the assassins who invade House Atreides.
They have developed energy shields.
Like darts.
They have developed energy shields that are capable of basically protecting you from all high velocity attacks.
Yes.
So the only way to actually hurt someone in this universe is with sword, because the shield will block the attack, and then you can start to slowly move the sword in for a killing blow.
And they represent this brilliantly. The shield is like a blue energy force around them, and it gets red when things start to penetrate it.
Yeah.
So, and this does multiple things. One, it explains this so visually well that they didn't need to explain in words why they don't use guns.
Yeah.
Like you could
And two, it does the thing that everybody loves but is so hard to justify. Lets people use swords again.
And three, it allows the combat sequences to get really brutal without upping the rating to an R by making there be gore everywhere.
But like you can start stabbing people because you need to.
Because every brutal weapon swing that would normally result in blood splatter just results in like this strong, like the red gets stronger the harder the like impact is.
Yeah.
So you can like feel and see how hard these hits are happening without it being gory.
It's really good.
Which is it's
really smart.
You see it in scenes where like Duncan is having to fight waves of dudes.
You see it best with Duncan.
My god, Duncan is Rhine.
Duncan.
If Paul is Shulk, then Duncan is fucking Rhine.
Xenoblade moment.
Yeah, like the big, strong, beefy, kind of meat-headed, but like lovable and like smarter than you think character. Yeah,
smarter than you think.
Thankfully, Ryan doesn't die in Xenoblade.
And that's how.
I love the shield mechanic. I literally don't think they could have visually represented that honestly kind of difficult concept to portray better than the way they did it in the movie.
Yeah, and it leads to fun combat where it's like, okay, since guns are no longer effective, that leaves the room for more interesting stuff like using darts to like
they
using darts where it's like
these stealth assassinations
because you can because the dart sticks around for a long time, longer than a bullet does. That you launch the dart at them, it hits the shield, and then it keeps going.
Okay, my camera is like running out of all the space because I didn't think I came over here not realizing we would talk about 3 other movies.
Yes.
And for another, I came over here not realizing we would talk about Dune for longer than we talked about the three other movies.
Because you didn't realize how big
It's because
Dune
well,
is.
I knew we would. I figured we'd talk about Dune for 30 minutes. I just didn't think we'd talk about other things for another 30 minutes.
So to make a long story short,
Dune is awesome, and
go see
we've
it.
talked about it for 30 minutes, and I could probably come up with things to talk
We
about
can make
for
it a-
30 minutes more if I want to.
We're going to transition into being a Dune podcast.
It's
This
Dune
is
podcast.
This is our announcement.
I probably will start reading it now. I feel like this is aimed too high. Well, I'll probably start reading it now.
Same. I'm probably going to pick up the book
Because it's just...
I have a credit on Audible.
It's got that
so I'm probably
little,
just
it's
gonna
got
use
that little bit of Xenoblade, and real ones know I love that Xenoblade.
And it's also
got that Star Wars, but without the schlocky nonsense that Star Wars has become.
And it's got the level of depth of world building that you would expect from
from
Lord of the
Lord of the
Rings
Rings.
or Game of Thrones.
Yeah. It's got all of those things.
Mwah.
I think it's
And most importantly,
and it's also
got the Baron.
Well, the Baron is the perfect example of another thing it's got, which is a little bit of like classic sci-fi weirdness.
Yes.
That like
this book is these books are weird and unashamed of being
Dune is weird and like hard to adapt, but if there's anybody who can do it, it's the people that are doing it right now, and it's working. It's working very, very well. I expected it to be good because it had a lot of things, but I didn't expect to be so sold on it that I was like, I need the second part now.
Well, because like from the initial people who saw it like outside of the U.S., I heard mixed things. But then it came over here. Everybody loves it.
Most of the mixed reviews it got were about it being the first half of the story, and people really not knowing that it was going to be that.
Why is it only half of the story?
Right.
Why didn't you turn a 30-hour book into a 2-hour movie?
I kind of get it because if you didn't know it was that,
if I didn't know that, well, I wasn't even that mad because I knew it wasn't going to be the whole movie.
The pace is slow, not in a bad way, but in a way that it takes itself like when we talked about like Nausicaa. That's another movie that feels like this. This movie is not afraid to take its time.
Yes,
and taking its time telling that half of a story could be irritating to certain minds.
Baby want entertainment now.
Yeah, it is the anti-Star Wars in that way too.
Yes.
But like. For me, like, you soak me into the world enough, and I don't care how many hours you're making me put into it. Xenoblade games are, like, hundreds of hours long. And I'm, like, I was very sucked into the Dune world, even though I feel like they kind of give you the bare minimum as far as info about how that world works. Even though they give you a lot of info, they still give you the...
I feel like there's a lot of depth there that we have no idea about.
These books are, like, I can imagine just how massive the section of the book is that they adapted into and how filled with, like, info about the world.
God, those fights were probably like a chapter each.
Right, just
a full-on chapter just having to describe.
There's a reason it's been unadaptable for like
except for that
50
one
years.
time in the 80s.
David Lynch adapted it, which I like to watch that.
I'd like to watch that at some point too. I hear it's really weird.
Yeah, that's what my friends have told me. It's very, very weird, but like cool, like not bad, just weird,
bizarre.
And they're cramming a lot of story into.
Yeah,
I imagine he probably took a lot of artistic liberties with the story, whereas this feels very like you can tell it's a book adaptation,
but in a good way. It's a good book adaptation.
There's a good strong book adaptation, and honestly, the way it ended on a sort of cliffhanger, it just sort of felt like TV show watching, like watching a really good. I do think Dune would probably work better as a TV show than a movie, but the problem is it's hard. Like TV shows don't get the budget to do what Villeneuve did with Dune.
Yeah, I prefer. I would love. Yeah. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. TV shows are better for these sort of long form adaptations, but you can do so much more with the budget and the scope of a movie.
Yeah, not just because of budget, because TV shows are starting to get huge fucking.
But also
budgets.
just like,
also the scope is in being
bigger.
in the movie theater and like
movies feel
getting
huge.
that scope. This movie is a very good argument for the value of movie theaters and not just dropping everything on streaming at the same time.
If you want people to get back into theaters,
release more movies like this.
Release more movies like Dune.
I wonder though, how much do the studios actually care about getting people back in the theaters? That's an interesting.
Honestly,
that's a separate conversation. But Well, I guess we'll see.
We'll see.
That's enough about Dune.